Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Tonight we are going to talk about Ouija. You know it's one of my favorite subjects, or if you didn't know and you're new to my channel, I like Ouija boards. And I have quite a few videos regarding them, and a lot of you guys have asked a lot of questions about them. So tonight I'm going to answer your questions regarding Ouija. To kick it off, one of my subscribers named Mickey, who does fan art for me, and she's exceptionally talented, she did a research project not that long ago, and a couple of the questions on her research project were in regard to Ouija boards. So I thought I would kick off the Q&A with how I responded to those. Firstly, she asked, how do you think Ouija works? And that actually is a great question. I have an entire video that's probably my favorite Ouija related video on my channel called How Ouija Boards Move. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend watching it because it's a very simple thing. But let me go over my response for you here. Ouija moves via the ideomotor effect. Essentially, it's through unconscious impulses that the player's bodies create, which is why planchettes don't move without physical contact. And if they did, it'd be classified as poltergeist activity and not related to the Ouija board itself. And I would love to watch that, personally. How do you explain the movements from Ouija, and do you think it's really a spirit communicating through the board? With Ouija being developed as a mediumship tool, I think that you do have to have some psychic or mediumship abilities, and it can be used to tune in to what you're picking up intuitively to help you figure out the meaning. With that being said, if you develop your abilities further, the information that you receive, you could get using the board or not using the board. I think in general, most people do not contact any type of spirit entity, and it is mostly used for entertainment. It is important to note that your beliefs in Ouija are in your subconscious, so if you have beliefs that make you fear it, you will have something creepy spelled out. Something in your unconscious is going to want to have that I told you so moment. Overall, it's a sticker on a piece of cardboard that gets a bad rep. Now on to some other questions. Is it okay to play Ouija alone? Yes, absolutely. There is nothing wrong with it as long as you feel there is nothing wrong with it. The biggest part of Ouija is do what you feel comfortable doing. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. No big deal, no harm, no foul. But if you do feel comfortable playing by yourself, there's no reason not to. I personally can't. I've tried multiple times. I'm not able to disconnect myself enough from the sensation of the movement and my own consciousness being aware of the movement. So I can't really disconnect enough to have it move through me. But some people can, and there's nothing wrong with that. Is it okay to display a Ouija board in your home? Can it open portals or doorways by doing so? I personally have no issue displaying it. Mine stays in my cabinet most of the time inside of its box, so it's there. I can play it whenever I want to, and I like how the box looks. I like Ouija stuff. I think it's neat. I have heard from some people that they feel like whenever they display them, they prefer not to keep the planchette with them because of their own personal beliefs that it could possibly turn into some type of opening. I personally don't feel that way, but if you do, that's totally your prerogative. What are some ways to guarantee a safe Ouija board experience? Be confident, be excited, take it seriously but not too seriously. I would definitely say you need to approach it with some respect because you don't know what you're contacting. It's whatever is able to communicate through you. It could be your higher self, it could be something more. So you do want to have some type of respect, but at the same time you need to speak to it like you would any other person. So you need to not be afraid to just talk and be casual and have fun and joke around because it is overall a source of entertainment. To guarantee a safe playing situation, I would just say do what makes you feel the most comfortable. I have told you guys before, if you have like a moment of silence or a way that you like to open your session with, some people would like to do prayer, light candles, whatever you feel like you would like to do. Sometimes setting the scene and getting it ready for your communication is also a way that you mentally prepare for it and you set yourself up for a good session too. Why is it called Ouija? In my short film Uninvited, we actually made a little joke about the name Ouija and where it comes from because it is one of the sources. There are a few different sources as to where the name originated and what it means. Regardless of whichever name you feel like it probably originated from, that's what it is now. Why are lots of people scared of it? Misinformation. Definitely. If you hear something is bad, you're going to think it's bad. And then that snowball effect is going to happen and you're always going to think that negative things are going to happen. However, if your mindset is different than that, you have nothing to worry about. So really it's just a matter of people not understanding where it came from, what it is, having a lot of fear regarding it, and kind of demonizing something that really doesn't deserve it. When you're done, can you leave the planchette on the board? Yeah. There's no reason you don't have to. Usually at the end of my session, whenever we drag it to goodbye, it stays on the board for a minute, you know. Sometimes we flip over the board to kind of get ready for the next session. Sometimes when it's staying in the box, the planchette is on the board. Sometimes it's behind it. It just kind of depends. So I feel like there's no problem with that myself. Can a spirit pretend to be someone else even if they get any test questions you present correct? Yeah, because you subconsciously know the answer to these questions. So whenever you're communicating through the board, the first line of contact is you. And if you have those answers, you might unconsciously be giving those answers. Or you might be putting it out there so strongly that whatever it is that is communicating with you or through you is also able to interpret that as well. I would definitely say if you get confirmation that somebody's who they say they are, still be skeptical. I don't think I've ever spoke to anything through a Ouija board that I can 100% say is for sure what it said it was, ever. What are my feelings on homemade boards? They work exactly the same as a normal board, as a store-bought board. So if you'd like to use one of your own, or if you want to purchase one through Etsy or some handmade seller is making one and you want to buy it, it will work exactly the same. I also had a hilarious comment that somebody left that was, can you do Ouija on the top of a pizza box with a slice of pizza as the planchette? Never tried it, totally going to now. So that's like super exciting to me. Are there any similar tools to a Ouija board? There are a lot of different mediumship development tools out there. Probably the closest to Ouija would be a pendulum or table tipping. Table tipping, I feel like, has more of a feeling of Ouija, and it's so much fun. I'm still trying to organize a group to get together to do table tipping as a session for you guys. I've only been a part of them a handful of times, but they are amazing and so much fun and so weird and cool. With pendulums, they're very simple. You just hold it and you let it swing. So that has a lot more individual influence, and you can do that completely solo. In fact, I don't think there's a way you can do it with two people. But with the table tipping and the Ouija board, it is a group effort of at least 2 or more people. So I would say that's probably the closest, and then pendulums would be like the solo version of that if you can't use Ouija by yourself. I had somebody comment that they felt like if you ask for a sign in the room by like a touch or a sound being made in the environment, that you're asking something to be able to connect to you as a person and be able to have vulnerability to it. I fully disagree with that. I think if you are really connecting with something that is in the room, has a presence outside of your own, asking it something simple like, if you are here, make yourself known, I feel like that is a way for it to be able to communicate in an easier way for it, and an easier to confirm way. I don't feel like what you get through a Ouija board you can necessarily confirm, unless afterwards you do further research and you find out everything that you were communicated with that came through the board was actually factual. Then that's another story, and I feel like, again, that was you with your own abilities being able to interpret what you were getting. But I don't feel like asking for a sign outside of that is inviting anything to do anything to you in any way. Is Zozo real? I don't feel like Zozo is real, personally. I know a lot of people do. I know there's a lot of cases of people saying that Zozo is an actual entity. A lot of the Zozo related motions that people note of like the figure eights and the arcing across the letters motions, that's just normal Ouija movement. And I feel like there's a lot more things that people say could be a sign of Zozo that I just don't really feel like are. I think a lot of it is people hearing about it and then being able to manifest that into their session unconsciously. So again, if your feelings and your beliefs steer you in a different way, trust your gut. That's the most important part of this. Can a Ouija board make my house haunted? I don't feel like it can. I have used my Ouija board since I got it, whenever I was in like middle school, high school age. The house I lived in was haunted well before that. And since I moved out of that house, none of the other places I have resided have been haunted. I've had occasional paranormal experiences. I feel like those are linked more to the individual than to the environment, but I haven't had a haunted house like I did when I grew up. So I don't feel like that attracts anything. Some people don't feel comfortable playing in their own home, and that is totally up to you. It's totally fine, but I don't feel like that would be a contributing factor to any kind of haunting. I also had somebody comment, never anger a ghost. I don't necessarily disagree with this. I'm not a huge fan of challenging things to make itself known in a demanding sense or in a bullying kind of fashion. But I think just asking for a sign or a signal or for it to do something and then saying, well, I guess I couldn't do it, isn't bullying and isn't being mean. So I would definitely say that comes back to the respect factor. Have respect because you don't know if you could potentially be speaking to something unknown or if it's your higher self, but regardless, you need to have some respect to it and not come across mean or cruel in any way. Does online Ouija have the same effect? No. There's no way for it to communicate through you, to my knowledge. There's a lot of electronic tools that are being used for paranormal investigation now, so there could be some that actually do seem to work. I've never encountered one. Can you ask silly questions? Like, do you like chicken? Yeah, you can. Would you ask your friend? Would you ask, somebody random? Talk to it like a person. The description of ghost or the paranormal, no one really truly knows the definition of. So you can't really assume like you're talking to necessarily a person because it could be something completely different than what we've ever assumed is what we're contacting. But at the same time, you want to speak to it like you would anybody else, because if it's attracted to you, it's attracted to the way you are, and you wouldn't be any different if you were talking to them, because if they're already around you in some sense, you already do it. Can I make a Ouija board in another language? Never tried it, and that's a really interesting question. I'm not sure if they exist in other languages, so if you guys have heard of that, please do let me know. I'm sure that if you do speak to it in your own native language, you'll probably get responses in your native language. And there is a term that I'm going to list down here because I'm blanking on it at the moment, where a lot of people believe that you would be able to communicate after you're gone from this realm, whether you're deceased or however else you may be able to communicate through a Ouija board, where you would be able to understand what this person is saying regardless of language and respond. And sometimes in different paranormal investigations on TV shows, you'll see sometimes they get responses in the language that the person they're trying to communicate is from or the language of the location that they're in. And then they'll also get responses in the language that they speak. And that's kind of with that same concept that it'll find a way to communicate. Can you watch people play or can you be involved without actually playing? Back in the day, whenever we used to play at my friend's house, we would have a huge group and we'd play pretty much weekly. And there's only so much room that you can get around a Ouija board, so there'd be, quite a few of us that wouldn't be able to touch it. So what we would do in those cases is take some people into other rooms, have them say something quietly or do something with their hands or hold up a number of fingers behind their back or do something silly, come back in the room, not touch the board, and ask the board what just happened in the other room, and then it would spell out what that person did. That's still one of the coolest things that I've experienced with a Ouija board, is the fact that nobody in that room would have been able to know what the other person was doing. And I don't think we ever had it guess wrong. Should I smudge or sage before or after a session? If you feel compelled to, absolutely. This kind of draws upon the start your session in a way that you feel comfortable. So if you want to open it with a type of saging or smudging, you can do that and then close with that as well. That's just another kind of form of hello goodbye in the realm of Ouija. So you're opening that space, allowing things to come in and communicate with you, and then closing it as well. So if you want to do that, there's no problem. Can anything escape after you say goodbye or leave it? No. There's no way for anything to escape. That question has a lot of fear connotation to it. If you approach this with fear, you're going to get a scarier outcome. I feel like a lot of people who've had negative experiences regarding Ouija and blamed it on Ouija such as like supposed possessions and things of that nature. I think a lot of that has to do with the mental condition of the person involved rather than anything they were doing, because belief can manifest into reality, I feel like. So if you really truly believe, you talk to something and it said it's in the room and it's gonna hurt you and it's gonna take over you, and you have a weakness to where you feel like that could really happen, you might end up allowing yourself to get into a mindset that's not safe. Is that the fault of the Ouija board? I don't feel like it is. I feel like that's something exclusive to that individual. But I would say, no, nothing can escape. I heard you can't get rid of a Ouija board. I have one and I don't want one anymore. What do I do? A lot of people have a lot of different things they say you can do with it, and really ultimately it's up to you and what you feel comfortable with. Some people say you can burn it. Some people say you can bury it. Some people say you can give it away or sell it. Any of those would be fine. Whatever you feel like doing, go for it. Someone commented in one of my videos, I thought you can't take your hands off the planchette. I've never felt that way. I've never gotten that feeling, so I never follow that rule if it is a rule, and I've never had any problems with it. A lot of people watching my video where I play with Kiana said that whenever it went to 6 3 times, that it's a demon. That goes back to your own personal beliefs. I don't feel like that number has any connotation to that at all, personally. A lot of horror movies have made it seem that way. A lot of people may believe that that's what that would mean. I have no reason to believe that, and I've never had any experience to denote otherwise. If the planchette continually goes off the board, is that a bad sign? No. For me, that's just saying like the energy and the momentum is up, but it's still getting used to you. It's still getting used to the feeling of you and the people you're playing with, and it's still trying to figure out the groove that's going to get you to be able to use it properly. So I don't think anything of that in a bad way. And sometimes while you're playing and it's already got your feeling and your vibes on it, it'll still do it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It could be indicating something off the board, but it's not trying to like escape. There's no way for it to. What it would be doing is using you to talk through it. Nothing is coming through the board. That isn't how that works. I also had someone comment and say, when I record the Ouija board games that I have on my channel, why do I edit them? The truth is, when you play Ouija, it takes really a long time for it to go from letter to letter. So I think it would be a little more enjoyable to watch if you watch it hit the next letter and not take 45 seconds to go across the board slowly while myself and whoever I'm playing with are completely silent, because that's boring. But I assure you that is how it goes. I will probably do a longer version now that I have better ways to upload my videos that are a little quicker. At the time, whenever I uploaded my longer videos, the upload rate was insane, so that's also another reason why I tried to cut down on time as much as I could. But really, it's a long process. If you haven't checked out the Ouija playlist on my channel, please do. There's a lot of different stuff, and I definitely recommend the video about how Ouija boards move. I feel like it's short, sweet, to the point, and will completely calm down anybody who's really worried that they're messing with scary stuff, because Ouija is not scary. It really isn't. Overall, as always, trust your gut. If you don't like Ouija boards, that's cool. I'm not trying to make you like them. I just like them myself, and I get a lot of questions regarding them, and I know a lot of you are interested in them as well. So thank you so much again for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you get notified every time I upload. My name's Kat, and this is Paranormal Kativity. Have a strange day. Bye!